Okay, today's video is going to be about some great people that I've met at my church. This is Denny and Darla, and I found out that Darla in her own right was a pioneer in off-gridding, and she did it alone before she met Denny, and she's got a lot of insights, and I think that she's got some good information to share with everyone. So today I hope that you're going to stay tuned and enjoy this information.
Well, I'd always wanted to have a place to visit in the mountains, not really just live there, but the circumstances brought me to a point of where I had to make a decision and purchase property in the mountains or someplace else. Well, I get an opportunity to purchase property, and according to the pictures you can see, I bought this really old trailer, and it had another old trailer parallel behind it, and by Y2K I kind of decided, since I had some income that I could use, I was going to use it to get some solar panels and to try to live off of solar. That was a brand new experience for me, and I was by myself. So I was able to purchase a really old table, and I would not recommend this method because I had problems with it in that it was great in that it held the 8 golf cart batteries that I used for the solar, but I couldn't reach in to see them well to add water to them, and they had to have water added to a certain level, and so I'd have to use a mirror and try to go underneath the top of the table because they were on a ledge beneath the table. And well, I know this sounds really negative to say things like that, but I would really encourage anybody that wanted to go use solar to use it. Now, I was not a total solar home person. I had a propane gas range and a propane really old refrigerator, for which I was glad because I didn't want to take any chances in case we would lose power or something would happen. And with Y2K coming, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I wanted to have kind of a backup, and I really didn't want to get a generator and have to deal with gasoline and the whole shebang. So that was my way of dealing with it. I had a 500-gallon propane tank, and I also had a furnace that would work, but I didn't use the furnace. I used a wood-burning stove. Well, I was younger then. I'm 70 years old now, and back when I was 52, it was a better idea. When you're younger, you have the energy to carry the wood and so forth. It really makes a difference. But I moved up there because I had always loved the mountains. I think they're beautiful, and I had been depressed all my life, grew up in southern Illinois, and decided that I think that being able to see the mountains in the distance made me feel like things were moved out away from me. I didn't feel depressed like I did back in Illinois. Felt kind of closed in. It's kind of like, well, if God can make those mountains, He can handle my problems. I was looking at the pictures, and one of the ones that was scanned in is a photograph of my old Datsun, not Datsun, it's a Subaru car, Subaru car, and this trailer that I lived in was only 12 feet wide, and it was a 2-bedroom with 2 baths. It may not sound too small, but that was pretty small. So I put a lot of things in the other trailer, and I enjoyed using the solar in that I was amazed that with only 3 100-watt Siemens panels and a 500-watt generator, wind generator, which I had purchased, I was able to iron, wash clothes, and use the microwave all at the same time. Because I thought, I'm going to have to be really careful about how I use things. Of course, I wasn't depending on the solar for the refrigerator or the stove. And I used a wood stove. nevertheless, that was quite an amazing thing to me, to be able to do that. And there was just one day when I really was disappointed, and that was, you see, I never really totally went off the grid. I could have, but I didn't. I guess it was kind of a security blanket. Anyway, one day I was working on my genealogy for like 8 hours on the computer, and I forgot that I was on solar, and I was depending on the solar. I was not depending on the backup, and I kept forgetting to hit save. All of a sudden, all the electricity went off and the computer went off. I was devastated. It was like, you're kidding me. 8 hours worth of work for nothing. I never have finished going back to that and trying to replace it again. In the genealogy, it was complex because I was connecting obituaries and dates and times and stories and trying to make it make sense. And anyway, that was one of my negative things, and the other negative thing would have been the way the batteries were located, in that they were very hard for me to add water to. Now, that was back then. I don't know what it's like now. It could be that the batteries are sealed and you don't do that to them. I don't know. But it was an adventure, and I'm really thankful for it because it expanded my confidence level in my life. And looking at the pictures, if you look at the one, we can see the two trailers, but there is one where you can actually see two of the panels. That's the only photograph I have of the Siemens panels. And they were on a platform that was, you could swivel it so you could turn it according to where the sun was. Now I figured that either there was going to be sun and I could use the solar panels, or if it wasn't sunny, it was cloudy, then it would probably be windy. So it worked well with the wind generator. There's also a picture of me back then, and you can see on the left side is a brown shed. Well, just past the shed in the front of the trailer is where the panels were located, as you can see by the other picture. In the shed down below, I also had a cistern, a water cistern. And I had transferred it so that you could use the cistern. It made me able to not have to haul water, and it didn't matter if my water in my well pumped a lot of water at once. I was able to still use the cistern. So it was in the cellar of that shed. Yes, the well was already there, and there was a septic and the old trailer. I had to have everything, to live there. So that was what made me decide to purchase a property. Well, since then, property has really gone up in price. And if a person can afford to have solar and get off the grid, I recommend it. I would encourage it. It was a blessing. I really enjoyed doing that. But I also enjoyed using the propane as a backup. And I don't care for using, I guess they now have generators that are quiet. But the ones that I've heard were noisy. And I moved to the mountains for peace and quiet. I really like that, about being up in the mountains. And of the other pictures you can see, there's a picture of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range in the distance. That was a view out my front windows, which I loved. You could sit in the living room at the dining room table. I put in the living room by the windows. Or you could be washing dishes in the kitchen and look out at the mountains and see them. And I knew that I didn't have to be afraid that there would be enough water because of the cistern and because of the way the pump setup was fixed. There's also a picture of a snow person I made. It's a snow girl. She's got a fancy hat on and a feather on her hat. And I had a lot of fun up there by myself. And also there's a picture of from my deck. It looks like a little cottage. It was a bird feeder that I made. The other thing I would say is that in living in the mountains like that and being dependent on solar, one thing I learned about living up there was that you have to plan ahead. I wasn't used to that. And I needed to plan ahead with the solar too, because I didn't want to use too much of it, like save, hit the button that says save for computers, Things like that were inconvenient, but they were things I learned. And it was negative in a way, but in another way, it was a good experience and a good discipline for me. it was just a great experience living in the mountains, and a quiet experience. And there's lots of really good people that live up in the mountains. That's like the one I'm talking to right now. I really enjoy it and know that if you physically can handle doing it, and you can financially handle what it would cost to get the panels and whatever you think you would need, go for it. I would really encourage that.
I'm free!